Long run day today, longish, I should say, about 2.5 hours. Trying to ramp up a little bit gradually in terms of my mileage towards that backyard ultra. Testing out the UltrAspire Zygos 6 again today. Hydration bladder in tow. Also have a bunch of Naak boost energy tucked away here. Unfortunately, no shoe clips today. I'm running in a top secret shoe that may not come to market for some time, so sorry you're gonna have to deal with talking head on the run clips of me and just the beautiful scenery out here today. Got a few runs in already with the Zygos 6 here. I'm actually gonna split this video into several parts, do it across several different runs here. I'm trying to get my solid 2 hours in today, and I don't want to stop for the close-ups and all that, but you'll see them in the video from later runs. One of the first things you'll notice here, especially if you have the Zygos 5 or one of the alpha models, I've been running a lot in the Alpha 5, is the tapered shape with the front panels here. Hourglass shape, if you will. Definitely designed to be a little closer up top and spread further down on the lower torso. I noticed this setup first in variations of the big Bronco vest. To my knowledge, all of UltrAspire's other vests have had a more kind of standard even spacing between the left and right panels. I did want to throw that out there as the first thing I mentioned, because you may put this on and wonder what's going on and try to make some adjustments to get them more evenly aligned, the two panels here, but it's definitely the case that this is by design. The cord system that you're working with here, Max O2 sternum straps, bungee cord system, 2 clasps here. As far as I could tell, there's not too much out of the box variability as far as adjusting the location of where those straps are oriented on either side of the panels. There is a little fabric strip running along each side, so if you were a handy do-it-yourselfer and you had a, I don't know, evident reason, or however you want to call it, to adjust those straps, perhaps you could detach them somewhere here along the bottom and then route them a different way. But for me, fit is perfect. It's kind of a one toggle adjustment here, actually two, one on each side. Got a little toggle here for the left and here for the right, and you just kind of pull each of them, set it, and more or less forget it. Kind of like this setup here, because the excess bungee gets tucked away in one of those side pockets and you don't have extra stuff, extra material from the clasp kind of bouncing around in the middle of your chest. Quick carb break here. Naak Boost 90 gram, similar with that tapioca flavor as those smaller packs that I previously tested. I don't know if it's a manufacturing thing or maybe I just don't remember. This one seems more gel-ish than the other one. The previous tapioca one I felt was slightly on the chunky side. It actually still is a little bit chunky, but not chewy chunky, just like kind of globby, I would say. Resealable screw top here, just like the Precision Hydration 90 gram gels. Good size 90 grams here to have in a single packet. I mentioned earlier that I'm rocking the hydration bladder today. I know there are some that are of the opinion that me using a hydration bladder makes me a rookie in some sort of way, but I will say that I have done quite well in some 100-mile races in the Zygos 5, primarily drinking with a hydration bladder. In fact, my typical setup is to carry a larger volume of fluids back in the hydration bladder there, a liter, sometimes even full liter and a half, and then have 2 soft flasks, kind of normal size, maybe 16 ounces up front. Sometimes I'll just store one in the pocket, have the other one in a handheld, and use the other side to store up gels and even drink mix packets, whatever else you gotta be carrying around in your pack. I've got Naak's Ultra Energy drink mix back there, 250 calories, 55 grams of carbs in here, and interestingly, 8 grams of protein. Naak has renewed their partnership with UTMB events. This is actually where I first tried this particular drink mix, out at the Kodiak 100K. Watermelon flavor here, actually, which I find is my favorite. I went into that Kodiak race, as I always do, uncrewed, solo out there. It is a little bit easier to just drink what's available on the course, as long as you can trust it and you are aware and have tested what they do have available. So if you are planning on hitting up some UTMB events, might be a good idea to test out some of this Naak stuff, boost gels, especially that drink mix there. That's what you're gonna have on all the UTMB courses, races by UTMB throughout the world. I do find that this ultra energy drink mix from Naak has a little bit more texture to it than is typical. Not quite as light as some other ones, and it doesn't have that kind of sticky, sugary taste. It almost has, I wouldn't call it grainy, but a slight type of chalky texture to it. Definitely something you want to try out if you are planning to do a race by UTMB. You want to know what that feels like, and if it's something that you could rely on or not, either if you planned it out or not. If you just happen to need a little extra while you're out there, you want to have some sense that that texture, that taste is going to be palatable for you. I am running without Soft Flasks today. Again, I got about a liter back there for 2 hours. Good enough for today's coolish weather run. Certainly would want to have more for 2 hours out on the trail later in the season. But these Soft Flask pockets here are certainly having enough capacity to carry some of those higher volume Soft Flasks that you're seeing on the market nowadays. In fact, the Zygos 6 does come with 2 27-ounce Soft Flasks there. Those are the ones that are compatible with the Blottle, ones I've tucked into the back of my UltrAspire Mountain Racer waist pack. Dan Green had this exact vest out at Cocodona, 250 miles, baby blue in fact. Love the color here. I'm pretty certain that he was carrying those high capacity Soft Flasks in here. 27 ounces, that's a lot. It's pretty solid. The shape of these pockets is what makes it really work so well. Nice and wide, you can pretty much accommodate any type of flask in here. Has the bottle loops up top. So my earlier test run was running with a regular 16-ounce flask in here. Used a loop there and it stayed nice and secure up here. But what is a little bit different is this wide Soft Flask pocket, the one back here. It extends a little further back along the sides here, and with the tapered shape of that 27-ounce Soft Flask, you can really tuck it way back down, almost along the side body, allowing you to fully get that 27-ounce bottle all the way in there. Typically, most vests will just have that straight bottle pocket with other overlapping pockets, as you see here, but it won't really extend around the side there. I find that when you have a smaller one, say you did want to carry that regular 16-ounce bottle, there's enough kind of pressure here from these overlapping pockets that the bottle won't easily slide along the side body there. So you don't really have to worry about having a smaller Soft Flask kind of disappear into the bottle pocket. Again, you still have those loops to hold it up, but the nature of the design of the pocket itself kind of holds it up on its own to a certain degree. So what are we talking about here? 27 times 2, talking nearly 1.5 liters of fluid up front there. Maybe you go conservative, do a 1 liter hydration bladder in the back, maybe go 1.5 liters, even 2 liters if you need to. And what are you talking about? 3, potentially 4 liters of fluid easily. And that's not even counting, maybe you leave the aid station, carry 1 or 2 Soft Flasks or handhelds even, and rock solid handling there with all of that high volume of fluid. You can see why this pack was a Cocodona winning pack for Dan Green. rounding out the hydration features here, you got good routing for your flask hose there. There's a little hole there, so you can route, I don't know if you can see that there, you can route the hose right up from the dedicated bladder sleeve, which is on the interior against my back there. You don't have to open the rear of the pack. You don't have to fish it out amongst or sandwich within all the other long-term gear you're carrying in the main compartment. Got a little fabric strap here to hold the hose down. Very nice. And this zipper pocket here, quite wider in fact than previous Zygos 5. Both pockets actually, these panels are just overall wider, the whole pack in general, compared to version 5. The back of this pocket here is not the actual back panel of the vest, so it is a separate kind of pocket offset from the panel itself, so you could easily route the hose through there, which is what I always do. It keeps it nice and tight, keeps it from flopping around next to your ear, which can tend to happen with other hoses and quite annoying, let me tell you. And rounding out the hose setup, got a couple of little bungees here on both sides. I added a little magnetic tab, trim your hose to the length you would like, route it anywhere you want, and pretty easy and solid bladder setup here. Little 30-gram packet here, Naak Boost, smaller one. Peach tea here. This one's actually kind of nice. It does have a somewhat sweeter taste than the standard ones. Less of that tapioca flavor. Almost a little bit less of that globbiness, in fact. Really liking this flavored one here. Gonna do a little close-up later on, certainly on the features of the back of the vest. Also, QUIVER attachment points, which are key for me. But I did want to show on the run, these front pockets here, this was an element I had heard. They had some delays as they were refining these pockets here, but I'm not quite certain which direction they were going in, because I was under the impression that they wanted to tighten these up a bit. There are similar pockets in the Alpha vest, which are more taut against the chest. These are quite loose, looser than I expected them to be. This compartment here is on top of the bladder sleeve pocket and tucked behind a zipper pocket. Two zippers, one on each side here. But it's just a little bit loose and floppy. I think you have to be careful putting smaller items in here, even gels. I had one flop out on me the other day when the vest wasn't packed so tight. Also because this zipper is kind of, you can see, floating. It's not taut against the vest. It makes it a little hard to open. I could kind of get it. I'm trying to do one-handed operation here, but depending on if you have stuff in that zipper pocket, I have my microphone case only right now. I had a gel in there earlier, but depending on the lumpiness of what you got in there, it could make the zipper a little tricky to operate, being that it's not just like a flat against the chest here. I would have expected this pocket to be more kind of like this, but it is a little bit loose there. That's certainly the aspect that I'm probably gonna pay the most attention to, because you don't want to have stuff flopping out on you on the run. Certainly could be a good spot to easily throw in extra beanie hats, buffs, gloves, that kind of thing, stuff that's gonna be a little bit lighter and thicker. Fill up those pockets and maybe put the gels and all those other kind of things that you definitely don't want to have flop out. Use the zipper pockets for those. Another thing I mentioned briefly earlier, the panels are definitely thicker than version 5. Thicker in the sense of wider here, wider straps on the shoulder, and I believe the panels themselves also a little bit wider. That does give you wider kind of upper chest, shoulder pockets. This zipper pocket definitely wider than the previous model, and yeah, this bungee type one here also pretty wide. You could put a good amount of stuff in there too. Humble running real life testing here. Got the UltrAspire Zygos 6 back on. Loaded up the Soft Flask here. Want to do a little close up here. Figure good a time as any. My wife had to head out for an event. I had to pick up my daughter who was in the middle of a play date. 8-year-old play date. Tons of fun. They wanted to go over to the playground, so gives me a chance to kind of hike around and finish up some thoughts on this vest here. Changed my shoes too. This pair you can see, not top secret, on Cloud Ultra 3. Check out my reviews on these comparisons to the Pro model, of course. These two flasks are 800 milliliters each, so north of 1.5 liters fully filled. I filled this one nearly to the top, maybe 750. I was trying to make sure I could get it in there. I talked about it having a bit of an angle. I'll show that a little bit in a close-up there. This one I filled a little bit less, maybe 650-ish, just to kind of show what it would look like when it's drawn down a little bit. Still north of a normal 16-ounce flask, and it's tucked away in there nicely. Stop off here, show you what I'm talking about. You can see the length of this long 800 milliliter flask, and you can see how that interior bottle sleeve pocket, it actually extends all the way here, which is along the side body nearly to the rear of the pack. You can see this one's fully loaded up here. If it's fully loaded at 800 milliliters, just due to the tautness of the bottle, you can't really bend it and fully get it around this edge. So I do have it kind of, does extend a little bit out of the top there, but after a few sips, it will tuck in there nicely. This one, again, I filled not fully to the top, probably about 650, maybe close to 700 ml in this one, and that gives the bottle a little bit more bend to get around this curve here, and then you can really tuck it in nicely. So definitely north of 16 milliliters here. You can see how that's angled there, curved a little bit. Again, if the bottle's completely full, it's going to be really tight, and then you can't really make that bend, but you can get a lot more in there compared to a typical 16-ounce 500 ml soft flask. I am on primarily a hike here, but I do have these bottles in here, and I have not run in this vest yet. First time with two mostly fully loaded soft flasks up front. They are definitely super stable. You can see here how much bounce are you seeing right now. Going pretty quick, actually. 8-minute pace, 746 when I was rolling down there a little bit. Can you see any bounce? I cannot feel any. All right, did a quick check there. This one stayed in. Nice over wrap here on this pocket. Maybe not ideal for a stainless steel mirror coffee cup, but it didn't fall out, so that's a good thing. Love these pockets up front. They felt super stable on that run. Talked about these kind of being a little bit loose earlier when I was in my long run. When you have full soft flasks up front here, there's definitely a lot less space. I was primarily using only using the hydration bladder earlier in my actual run, and these are just pretty wide open. I still feel like this could be a little bit stretchy. I was checking my Alpha vest when I got home, and it was definitely tauter up against here, but again, you have the zipper going over here, so perhaps that's why they can't really make it that stretchy. With the bottles, as they are now situated full, that area, that openness is a little bit less, and you can stuff things. It's a little bit tighter in there, a little bit more secure. One feature about this vest, and I talked about it being similar kind of to the Bronco race vest, I feel like they took the existing Zygos, maybe kind of the feel of the Alpha vest, and married that with some of the better features of the Bronco vest. And those features are how they had really good side body storage that was just like easy to get to. That one did have, the big vest had a full kangaroo pocket that extended from both sides, so you can either enter this way or that way, and it was fully connected behind. In this case, you don't have that, but you do have these separate kind of rear side pockets. The entry is pretty close up front here, and I find that's really good. Sometimes kangaroo pockets, they're either like really hard to get your arm in, you have to wrench your arm up high to get into them, or if you have a kind of side pocket, I think they have a more normal vest. I forgot what the name of the other UltrAspire vest was. It had these pockets where you can store extra bottles, but it was like a vertical entry, so you couldn't get them in and out on the run. There are 14 total pockets throughout this vest, or 14 or 12, and I think like 10 of them are accessible on the run, including these two right here. So these go, you can see my hand here, right about here. They do not connect. It is not a full kangaroo pocket over here. You see my both hands in there, but it is a pretty substantial area here. I got my gloves here. So say for example you had a pair of gloves, one-handed operation here, that's a perfect spot for them. Extra headlamp, buff, even I mean I would say a lightweight jacket. You do have the zipper pocket over here in the rear. You don't have an upper stash pocket in the Zygos. It was the same in the previous version. A little bit different setup with this than your traditional vest, where you would want to maybe stow quickly a windbreaker light shell there. But I think these pockets can really double. If you have a lightweight shell for your mandatory kit, these are kind of these craft gloves. They're not super thin, but your shell is not going to be a lot bigger than this right here. Pretty easy to get it in and out over there, and it's a spot where they did a good job of really, I think this is a great feature here. They have a little overlap on the pockets here. They do this with a lot of their pockets, most of their pockets. In fact, here it folds over the top, so you could kind of hook it over things, not necessarily these bottles here, but I did have my tripod there, and I would kind of loop this over the top, and it really holds it down. Same thing here. Stuff that you want to have in here, you may hook it over the edge. Using this as an example, just for demonstration, the coffee cup, you can see how this like elastic edging comes over the top. And you know, this is actually probably a good demonstration because it is a weird size, but now that this is overlapping the edge here, this cap is not fully secure. I'm probably gonna spill coffee, but that's a different story. An oddly shaped item here, fully secure there. So these pockets work really well. Again, see the gloves here, light jacket, just perfect. Up front, the two zip pockets. I was talking about them being a little tricky to zip and unzip due to the looseness. Again, with the bottles here, that is going to make it a little easier. And as I was talking about it on the run, it wasn't that difficult, but you are going to have curvature with this zippered pocket here, and it's on top of this soft flask here. In the previous Zygos, you had a zipper pocket that was flat against the chest, so if carrying a phone is something that you typically do, it's a little bit tricky. I do have my phone here with me, and I could definitely get it in there, but with the bottle kind of on the fuller side, it is actually, let's take this out, it's kind of tricky. Let's get rid of this here. It's kind of tight to get it in there. I have a little extra material here. You could get the phone here, but it is, again, with this bottle being full, it's on top of that. So it is secure, but looks a little weird. I guess it's okay. You can also stick it here, but I would not recommend that. I'm not sold on the security of these pockets here. Let me check it really quickly with the gloves. If you had gloves or other soft layers talked about earlier that you could stuff in, maybe depending on how much volume is in these bottles, one glove on each side here, something like that. That is not an issue, but then you're also eating into the space of these zipper pockets. So the pockets here are a little tricky because you kind of have to wedge everything on top of these bottles. So if you are going to go with the full 27 ounces, a lot of that volume is going to sit behind these pockets, so you may have trouble utilizing the full volume of this over entry pocket here and also this zipper pocket on the outside. If you had your typical 16 ounces here, or this was more drawn down over the course of your run or run segment within a race, then of course you're going to have access to more volume in these pockets that do overlap. Swinging around to the rear of the vest here, first let's look at the hydration bladder situation here. I drank it down, but I left it in there in case you didn't get a good look on the run. They have that little hole there to route the hose, which is missing in the newest Alpha. Don't know why they did that. In the Alpha, it kind of comes in this dedicated sleeve, and it's kind of on my shoulder. I wish they would have a little way to route it over the top. Didn't omit that here, which is good. So this is your isolated bladder pocket here. Isolated and insulated for that matter. You can hear it. It's a little bit thick, so it's up to you if you like this or not. It is adding a certain amount of material here, a little bit of weight, but you don't have to worry about having an insulated sleeve in the summer. If you like to have a cold drink, sometimes I have this old Solomon sleeve, and I'll put my hydration bladder in that sleeve and then put it in my vest. If it doesn't have this insulated layer, it'll also keep it from freezing in the winter. Of course, it is up against your back. It is nice. I find that it's really not that difficult to fill this up at an aid station, as long as you're not 100% against taking your pack off at an aid station, which some people are. They want to keep everything on. I find it's not a big deal. Look, there's my bladder. Pop this off, fill it up, shake it up, throw it back in there. It doesn't interfere with anything else I have anywhere else in my vest, so don't have an issue with that. Again, routing the hose here and then behind this pocket here, which is a great feature. A lot of vests, they don't have a easily routable area or an easy route to pass the bladder hose. It ends up going on top of a shoulder pocket if a vest does have a shoulder pocket. Some of them don't utilize that space very efficiently. UltrAspire does here. Got this bungee one over here and this larger zipper one, but then you could also route the hose easily behind it and then just figure out a way to lock it down. Again, I got a little quick magnet over there and it works absolutely perfectly. This is probably gold standard setup as far as routing a bladder hose. Moving on to the back of the vest, I threw on UltrAspires here. Check these out. This is great. Kind of copied Solomon here. Why not? This is working just fine, so everybody should kind of go with this, more or less universal here. The attachment at the bottom is a little bit different though. So there's this bar that they use. This is more about the QUIVER, not the Zygos vest here, but you kind of pass this bar through one of these little tabbies here, either on the top or the bottom, and it's long enough where it doesn't fall through, and then you pull this to tighten it up. Solomon has the best QUIVER situation. They have a setup where this tab goes through here, and then this cable routes over the top so that you can cinch the poles down pretty much behind your back without even looking, and that works perfectly. I don't know if they have a patent on that situation, but that could be something else that they could look to copy. This is a little tricky because it's set very well, but you can see where this adjustment is located. If you wanted to tighten this up, it's behind the QUIVER, so it's a little tricky to reach that behind your back. Same thing with these adjustments here. If you wanted to squeeze down the poles, Solomon has like one cable where it kind of attaches here and then it routes over the top. You know, the toggle's down here, so you could adjust the toggle behind your back very easily. This, you can see where these adjustments are. If you want to tighten down these poles so they're not rattling like crazy, driving you crazy for X amount of miles during a race, it's in the middle of your back. There is no way I could adjust these toggles on the run. It's dead center in my back. I couldn't tell you how I would possibly do that. You just kind of got to do it once and then leave it and then try to get them back in if they're too tight. That is a little tricky there. Just pulling this bar here through the hole, and that's pretty much how you get it in and out. The rear of the pack, this is where you have your maximum storage capacity. Pretty huge. This is pretty much more of a backpack hiking style area right here. Super long distance. This is a 14-liter vest, so this is more than you will see in most running vests, and full open zip design. You could really organize what you want in there. If you had like a giant dry sack, or even maybe divided stuff into 2 different dry sacks, you could easily set that up, store stuff away that you don't need immediately, and just zip it up and know that it's secure. Inside here, you've got your standard back zipper pocket if you want to secure stuff. Pretty deep area here. If you had something that was like a wallet or phone that you really didn't need right away, anything you just want to make sure is zipped up, the key loop thing is in here too. Zip that away. One thing I found, this thing rattles around, makes a little bit of noise. I think I replaced this with a little string in my Zygos 5 because I could just hear that behind me oddly making a sound. So massive main compartment there, and then on the outside, of course, you have this bungee area here. So this could kind of double as your jacket area, although if you have the quiver, it's kind of in the way. Let me see. The thing is, it goes down pretty deep, so if you stuff a jacket in here, you would kind of have to unclasp your vest, and then you could kind of pull something in and out. So it's not impossible. They do give you some type of easily accessible area without necessarily having to take the vest off. You can keep it around your shoulders, maybe undo a buckle and get into this one. These are kind of handy for tightening down the load. If you do stuff it with misshapen items or varying amounts of volume, you could adjust that on the fly, strap it down up against you, and also maybe you could probably attach things to here. There's this little kind of lip here on the bottom, so if you were strapping something on the top here, you could utilize this little bottom edge to give you a little grab to kind of hold things in there up against the back in conjunction with these straps. So that is a nice feature there. You also have got these little bungee straps for lower pole storage. I'm typically not a lower back horizontal pole storage guy. I have longer arms, so those tend to just hit my elbows, so I never actually use these, but it can also tighten up a load a little bit on the bottom side if you need to. In regards to pole storage, coming back up front here, you have these loops here. These are your bottle loops, but they also have a little bit of that attachment clip on there, so you could potentially, I don't know how you would do that, but you could wrap these around a pole, because this is one of those little toggles that clips back onto itself here. So you could wrap your poles on here if you wanted to do something across your upper chest. I don't think it would be easily routable because there are no attachment points over here, so you can't really do a solid like front pole attachment as far as I can tell in this vest. Thank you for tuning into Humble Running once again. This is more of a product showcase here, although I actually did run 15.5 miles earlier in the day. Forgot about that almost. Yeah, this is a model that I am well familiar with. The Zygos model, that is version 5, version 6 here. The true test is going to be once I really race in this vest, do some of those really long runs in it, and then I'll see how it really feels out on the trail. I mean, again, those types of things, only one way to test it, getting out there for those long days, long runs, carrying tons of stuff, going through the night, that kind of thing. I'll be using this for... What? What are you doing? You coming up? All right, so where was I going before I was so rudely interrupted by those 8-year-olds? Oh yeah, you're gonna see this vest a lot more on the channel. Definitely gonna be testing it out as I do my longer runs, training leading up to the Backyard Ultra there. I also do want to do a comparison, this one, version 5, and also the latest Alpha vest. So do kind of a roundup comparison video, maybe pick and choose what would be the best option between those 3 vests, or more specifically this one and the latest Alpha for various scenarios. There are product links down in the description below. Some of those may be affiliate links if you're interested in this vest or any other products. Stuff from the feed, of course. That does help support Humble Running and doesn't cost you anything. Saves you a little chunk of change as well. Thank you for tuning in once again to Humble Running. Please like and subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll see you out on the trails next time.